6 months ago, Israel's greatest enemy in Syria stepped down and the government fell to his opponents. Contrary to predictions, this didn't bring peace between Syria and Israel. Instead, conflicts intensified dramatically. In just the first 48 hours after Bashar al-Assad's fall, 480 airstrikes were conducted against Syria.
Ravenna Boulevard on-ramp.
The confrontation didn't stop there, escalating to Israeli ground forces entering Syria, who quickly advanced to within 24 kilometers of Damascus. But why do these attacks continue despite there being no army or enemy facing Israel in Syria? What is Israel seeking in post-Assad Syria? Is Syria itself the issue? Or are these events pieces of a larger puzzle? The answer lies in a historical project called David's Corridor. The relationship between Syria and Israel has always been tense. After Israel's establishment in 1948, Syria, as a neighboring Arab country, entered into war with Israel, a conflict that ended with Arab defeat and Israel gaining more territory. 19 years later, in 1967, following Israel's sudden attack on Egypt, Arab countries defended Egypt by entering the war against Israel. This conflict also ended in Arab defeat, with Israel occupying more territories, including Syria's Golan Heights. These confrontations continued throughout both Hafez al-Assad's and Bashar al-Assad's regimes, with Israel gradually approaching its historical dream of controlling territory from the Nile to the Euphrates. Alliance with minorities to survive and expand its power in a region where it was at war with Arab states. Israel sought alliances with regional minorities. It established serious connections with Iran under the Shah, and also formed relationships with Kurds, Druze, and other minorities in the region. Perhaps the most significant example was coordination with Iraqi Kurds in the 1960s and 70s to support them and weaken the Iraqi government. Another important instance was building relationships with Druze in southern Syria during the 1970s, a project that wasn't very successful. Syria's response facing Israel, which had acquired nuclear weapons, Syria needed to establish some form of deterrence. Hafez al-Assad tried to create deterrence against Israel's nuclear project by developing chemical weapons. After most Arab countries retreated from confrontation with Israel following the Camp David Accords, Syria allied with post-revolutionary Iran, which had adopted an anti-Israel stance after the Shah's fall in 1979 and other anti-Israel groups. Syria gradually became a key piece of the resistance axis and served as Iran's access bridge to Hezbollah and other anti-Israel groups. The Syrian crisis that began in 2011 created an excellent opportunity for Israel to see Assad, one of its most important enemies, removed from power. But Assad's removal had other significant stakeholders as well. Turkey, which wanted to become an energy transit hub from Asia to Europe, and was pursuing the Qatar-Turkey-Europe pipeline Qatar, which stood to gain enormous revenue from this project. Assad opposed this plan and cooperated with Iran and Russia for energy exports. Additionally, the Syrian Muslim Brotherhood, one of Assad's main opposition groups, had significant ideological proximity to Turkey's ruling Justice and Development Party. However, the presence of Iran and Hezbollah in Syria after the escalation of armed conflicts and the emergence of ISIS complicated matters. Not only did Assad remain in power, but Israel found its biggest enemies at its borders. Although these conflicts didn't remove Assad, they led to the unofficial independence of the Kurdish forces, SDF, in eastern Syria and the relative autonomy of Syrian opposition in northern Syria under Turkish support. Everything changed after October 7th, with Israel's attack on Lebanon. Hezbollah forces withdrew from Syria and concentrated in Lebanon. With simultaneous Israeli attacks on Iran's allies, Palestine, Yemen, Lebanon, and Iran itself, and the assassination of Iran's most important forces in Syria, Iran could no longer stay focused on Syria. Taking advantage of this ideal opportunity, along with Syria's severe internal problems and dissatisfaction with Assad, HTS, led by al-Golani, managed to overthrow Assad's government within a few days with Turkish support, facing little resistance. With this development, Israel achieved three major objectives: the removal of one of its important enemies from power in Syria, the withdrawal of Iran and Hezbollah from Syria, and cutting off Iran's access to Hezbollah through Syria. Israel faced a historic opportunity amid Syria's internal chaos. In the first week after Assad's fall, Syria's largest military assets were completely destroyed by Israeli airstrikes.
Israel has launched several attacks inside Syria.
Israeli missile strike on Damascus.
Says it has destroyed. Israel launched fresh wave
Israel
of
says
airstrikes
it has
in
carried
Syria.
out a military strike near the Syrian capital Damascus.
Naval fleet, air force, missile reserves, and intelligence bases, without meeting any significant resistance. But amidst the headlines about Syria and the capture of Assad's palace and other government centers, other important events took place. Dr. Yervan Arslanian, an Armenian scientist who headed Syria's advanced weapons research team, was assassinated by HTS on September 8, 2024. Israel attacked SSRC facilities, the main engine of Syria's indigenous weapons research and development, resulting in 12 deaths and 53 injuries a few weeks after Assad's fall. 13 more Syrian military engineers were killed in Al-Sahal village, and Ham's a long list of other Syrian military scientists were assassinated after destroying a significant portion of Syria's military assets. Israel used this opportunity for a ground invasion, taking control of key points in southern Syria, such as Quneitra and Mount Hermon, Syria's highest point.
לא נאפשר לכוחות של ארגון ה-HTS או לצבא סוריה החדש להיכנס לשטח מדרום לדמשק.
All these actions appear to be pieces of a larger puzzle, the revival of a historical map, David's corridor, connecting the Golan to the Euphrates River. In recent weeks, numerous reports have emerged about Israel establishing connections with Syrian Druze leaders and expressing support for the partition and declaration of Druze independence in southern Syria. Israel has also increasingly activated its capacity to connect with Syrian Kurds and supported their independence. Ilham Ahmed, SDF's foreign envoy, said after meeting with Israel's foreign minister in February, "The crisis of the Middle East requires that everyone understand that without Israel and Jewish people playing a role, a democratic solution for the region will not happen." This project starts from the Druze areas of southern Syria, Deir and Sueda, passes through Al-Tanf, controlled by Americans, Deir, ez-Zor, and Bukamal, and connects to the Kurdish-controlled region of Syria and eventually to Iraqi Kurdistan. This corridor represents a significant step toward the Greater Israel Project, a dream for Israelis since their establishment. It also permanently weakens the thread of Syria's revival by cutting off most of Syria's connection with Jordan and Iraq. Another key advantage for Israel is gaining access to Iran's borders as its most important enemy. The plan has important economic aspects as well. Most of Syria's oil and gas resources are located along this corridor. Additionally, Israel could secure its energy supply by establishing the Kirkuk Haifa pipeline, eliminating the risks of maritime energy transit and confrontation with the Houthis. However, this corridor could face several major obstacles, including Iraqi Popular Mobilization Forces in Turkey, which has risen to power in Syria. Although Turkey appears satisfied with the significant benefits it has gained after Assad's fall and seems to prefer maintaining them without conflict. These benefits include expanded Mediterranean coastal borders, its ally coming to power in a significant portion of Syrian territory, gaining the upper hand in water disputes with Cyprus and Greece, and the possibility of exploring many more gas resources in the Eastern Mediterranean. Turkey's perspective on Israel's actions in Syria might be summarized by Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan's April 12th interview.
We don't want to see any confrontation with Israel in Syria, because Syria belongs to Syrians. If they want to have a certain understanding with the Israelis, it's their business.
We must wait to see where the David's Corridor project leads. But Syria now appears to be like clay that can be easily molded by external parties.